Kim Rayner here from All About Spirits, Life After Cancer, and I want to welcome you to this week's episode of Life After Cancer. And, when we're given a cancer diagnosis, life throws us curveballs. It impacts everything from our spiritual lives to our physical bodies, our intimacy, the way that we handle change in our lives, our emotions, our social lives. It really does impact every aspect of our lives. And I created Life After Cancer to help people to navigate what I call the spices of life after active treatment. So I hope you find something in today's episode that's helpful for you. And today happens to be New Year's Eve in Wisconsin and in the United States. And you can see that we finally have some snow, which I'm really, really grateful for. It has been raining and yucky and cold, no snow involved. So I'm grateful to have the snow today. And today's episode, I really want to dedicate it to the spirituality of All About Spirit and Life After Cancer. A lot of times when we are coming to the end of the year, right, we spend time reflecting on what has gone on and what's happened. And when we've had some kind of a catastrophic life event, it seems like the volume gets turned up on that desire to connect to something bigger than us is even bigger and more important than it is at other times. So I have a practice that I started doing in 2008. And it really has to do with spending time on New Year's Day connecting with my higher self, connecting with God as I understand God, or connecting with spirit or the universe, or whatever it is that you want to call that part of life that's bigger than we are. And I thought I'd talk about what I actually do on New Year's Day because it's been kind of a tradition. And the very first thing that I can tell you is I disengage from all electronics. So you won't see any Facebook posts, you won't see any emails, you won't see any kind of information from me at all on New Year's Day. So I completely withdraw from all kinds of electronics. And I make a commitment to stay centered within myself. And I actually disconnect from the telephone. I don't talk to anybody. I spend the entire day in quiet contemplation. And it has become one of my favorite days of the year. It is powerful and it is solemn, and there is a reverence that goes on along with that, which is really, really beautiful, and I really, really appreciate it. And my very first year that I did the quiet contemplation, I spent the beginning part of the day reading. I read spiritual books that were important to me. And then I started kind of reading back through my journals and reflecting on where the year had taken me. And then I spent some time in prayer, and I spent some time in meditation after that. And what I really learned is, and this is really through the journey of the last 11 years, what I've really learned is that prayer is an outpouring of information. It is a setting of intentions. It is about sending information out to the universe. It's about sending information out to God. It's about making petitions and sometimes requests. And sometimes it's about asking questions. And the prayer part is oftentimes easier for me. And then there's the meditation part, which is the sitting in silence and waiting to hear the answer from the universe or from God, or to hear the small, still voice inside of me. And those are two really different experiences. And over the last 11 years, what I have really learned is that my spiritual practice, it absolutely requires both. It requires me to have an active, participative part of my practice. There has to be communication, outgoing communication to God as I understand God. And at the same time, there also has to be a moment for me to be silent, for me to listen, for me to find a way to connect to that small, still voice. to find a way for me to actually be able to hear the voice of God that's working in my life. And over the years, that voice has showed up for me in a lot of different ways. Sometimes it shows up in the animals that appear in my life. And, you know, the Native American culture believes that there are spiritual properties to each of the animals on the planet. And by studying those animals, I have learned things about myself, like hawk. The animal hawk means moving to a higher perspective, or looking at the world from a higher perspective. So when I find frequent hawks in my life, I will literally take a step back and say, all right, Spirit, what are you trying to tell me? What is it that I need to be moving to a higher perspective and looking at life from a bigger perspective in? So it's a way that I can say my spirituality is really a part of every aspect of my life. So finding a way to have the outgoing information for Spirit, and then the harder part of finding a way to allow the incoming portion of Spirit into my life, and the silence and the quiet in that is really, really important. And I know for a lot of people, meditation can be really hard. It can be really challenging. And what I would invite you to do is to start really slow, to literally set the timer for 2 minutes and just sit for those 2 minutes and listen to the thoughts that go on in your head, listen to your breath, and acknowledge, okay, I have thoughts that are going on. I can acknowledge the thoughts and I can send them on their way. So that's one way to practice meditation. Another way to practice meditation is to walk silently. And as you take your step, you recognize I'm quietly putting my heel down, and now I'm putting my toe down. And I'm moving the next leg forward, and I'm deliberately putting my heel down and deliberately putting my toe down. And taking conscious, aware steps as you are walking. That is a way to walk and do a walking meditation. Around here, we have labyrinths, which are spiritual paths that are winding paths that are similar to a maze. And walking a labyrinth in quiet contemplation is a really powerful way to meditate. If you go out on YouTube and do a search for guided meditations, there are thousands of guided meditations that are available for people who are just starting the process of meditating and learning how to do that. So if you are a cancer survivor or dealing with any kind of catastrophic life-changing event, the process of prayer and the process of meditation are equally important. If you find yourself able to do one more than the other, my invitation to you is to really practice the other one. Because spirituality isn't just outgoing, asking God to fill my wishes and to fill my Santa Claus list. It is about asking, it's about petitioning, it's about setting intentions, it is about inviting the divine and the spiritual into my space. But then it's also about finding a way to get quiet and to hear the answers that God has to offer. If you are wanting to learn more about it, if you want to have practice, or if you'd like to share some of your personal experiences with prayer and meditation, I would love to hear that. I would love for you to share them in the bottom of the show notes today. And I hope that you have a safe and peaceful and loving and heartfelt New Year's Eve. And I hope that if you can't take the whole day to spend it in quiet contemplation, my invitation is to you is to take a part of it and say, these moments in my January 1st, I'm going to spend in an outpouring of conversation to the divine as I understand the divine. And I'm also going to spend these moments in quiet contemplation listening to what the divine has to offer. So I hope that you find something in today's show that's helpful and useful to you. And until we actually have a chance to talk, I hope life treats you well. I and wish for you a beautiful closing out of 2018, and that you can find a way for your will to align with Spirit's will for 2019. Make it a great day. Thanks.